Well, hello everyone to the premiere episode of Schmoedown Analytics. I am your host, Double D Dan Stilinski. Thank you so much for joining us. But I'm not here alone. I have my co-host Kiwi Jess. How are you doing today, Kiwi?
Pretty good. Math's never been my strong suit, but let's see if that changes over the course of this show. I'm excited.
So am I. And also, as our guest host, we got Dagan from Let's Get Ready. How are you doing, Dagan?
I'm doing good. I've been officially dubbed a Canadian, and so the war with America is on. And after just the craziness that went down this weekend, this is, it's good to take my mind off all that, and because we really hate each other. The channels are full on war right now. No, I'm happy to be here. I'm also not very good at math, but I love talking about the Schmoedown, so I'm happy to be on here. Thanks for inviting me, Dan.
Yeah, no problem. But the good thing is that I'm doing the math part. You guys are just giving your opinions. I got the hard work.
Oh, so. Good.
You.
But first up, we're going to go back in time and do some retro analysis with three common matches. So first up, we got our first match is Finstock versus Josh Macuga. So this will now I had everyone rewatch some of these matches just to kind of get it fresh in our mind. Honestly, this is one of my favorites, especially when it was Mark and Draco being in the Finstock mask. That was definitely a blast. But Jess, this was your first time watching this match. What did you think?
I thought it was great. I love anything with Dagnino / Finstock / Bobby Gucci. I don't know how many more names that man is going to apply to himself, but I mean, I can't. I had to wear the gear, and it's not even because of him. But no, I really enjoy these classic matches. It's really nice as a very, very, very new fan going back and rewatching it and seeing how everyone sort of feels about these matches and being able to watch it myself and then experience it. It's been really great.
Dagan, what do you think about these matches?
Yeah, this was a fun trip down memory lane. I hadn't seen these matches probably since they aired, so I think this was like 2017.
Yep.
So season 3 or 4?
Maybe 4? Yeah,
4. So this was like right when I was really getting into the Schmoedown. Around this time period. And I remember all the stuff that happened with Dagnino and Draco and then oh, thanks, Taco. Yeah, it's called 4 years of not cutting it. But
it's
oh
just
God,
like a fan chat for Dagan now.
I've just become candy at this point. It's really uncomfortable.
That's why we brought you on, Dagan. Sorry.
I wish I knew what I was signing up for. These matches were really fun to go back and watch, especially Draco in the Finstock mask. Like, I vaguely remember that, and then going back and seeing it again, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Draco came out, and then it was like, oh, Macuga, there's no way he's gonna pull this one off. It's Draco, and then he worked his magic and everything, and yes, that's a good comparison. I'll take that.
Yeah, you got that.
For God's sakes, Dean.
Everyone in the chat needs to calm down.
You got that experience with Finstock actually taking it, because Josh only scored 1 point in that whole first round, and Finstock actually got 4 points. So you thought, oh, this is going to be Josh's nail in the coffin, but he came back, scoring 6 points in round 2 and stealing 2 points in round 2 from Finstock. And it was Finstock was still leading, but it was only by 1 point. But obviously, what happened is Finstock just missed that final question, and that's what really gave Josh Macuga the win. Is the combined of him just pulling answers out of his head and just guessing. That's why he was known as the guesser, in my opinion. So I feel like this was a great match. Definitely one that I loved analyzed to start out the premiere. But let's go into the next match, because this is actually that actually resulted in Finstock being retired, but Dagnino pulled a sly one saying, "Well, Tom Dagnino's not retired."
Yeah, it's that classic.
We knew it was coming, though.
Yeah,
we knew it was coming because it's the persona.
that classic wrestling trope of somebody has multiple gimmicks, and so you can retire one of the gimmicks, or loser leaves town for a year or whatever, and then they can switch over to one of their other personalities.
But I remember that when that happened, it was declared that Tom was retired. He was not going. He was banned from the Schmoedown for a year. But interestingly, that leads into our next match with Josh Macuga versus Jeff Snider. And the stipulation match was, if Jeff would have won that match, Tom would have been able to come back. But if Josh would have won, he could have taken any person in the league and pair him up as a partner and go and actually challenge the Patriots for the team's belts. So I thought this was a really good match also. But Kiwi, this is your first time watching this match. What do you think?
Really, really good. See, I don't really know much about like Macuga or Snider. I know them by reputation, so I don't have a lot of stock going into it. So it's quite fun going into it with being like, I don't really mind how this plays out. Even being a Finstock fan, I was like, well, it goes where it goes. I do actually really like the chemistry I found amongst a lot of the more classic, I'm not going to say older because I feel like that'd be wrong, but the classic members of the Schmoedown. It does feel slightly different from the Schmoedown I'm used to today. So I really like that slight change in dynamic, and the fact that it's a lot more character and a lot more storyline than I'm used to. And I know things have changed obviously a little bit for season 8 that I started in, but like having a lot more of that storyline is so much fun. I love that. So really enjoyed this.
And I also think that we might be going back to some of that sort of that old school feel this season with Reboot. Christian has sort of talked about how we're going to kind of go back to that sort of feel, which I am all for that. I think that yes, my variant is correct. I also feel uncomfortable in the chat there. But yeah, I agree with Dean there. I love seeing the element of wrestling play in. I think that's what Christian kind of wants to get back to. That's what made a lot of people fall in love with the Schmoedown in the first place. And I mean, I love the highly competitive nature of the last couple seasons, and it's been phenomenal. But I think that there's been a little bit of a lack or a desire to bring back that sort of more wrestling, sort of pro wrestling feel to the Schmoedown. So not to say we won't have high caliber, all-time great matches this year, but I do think that there's going to be more emphasis on character work and storyline, which I'm super all for that.
Yeah. So so my analysis from this is that Josh did way better. I mean, he scored 5 points better than from his first match with 1 point. So Josh and Jeff were neck and neck in round 1, but in round 2, Jeff Snider pulled the lead with 14 to 11 points.
Yeah.
But obviously, once again, the final round is where it was decided. Josh was unable to get his 3-pointer, but he was able to get his 5-pointer, scoring 18 points. Jeff managed to score his 2 and his 3, and that resulted in him in winning the match. And it was actually kind of cool to see Tom swagger and saying, yeah, this is exactly how it was going to go. I knew it was going to happen. That was no pressure. And it was just funny to see that. He didn't miss a beat, even though he was banned for a certain amount of time. So now we get into the main event, the one that was kind of building towards where all these 3 matches were building towards, the 5-round match between Tom Dagnino and Josh Macuga, the one that ended the rivalry. We'll start with you, Jess. What did you think about this match? Did this live up to the expectation, or was this kind of meh?
So I mean, the great thing about the Schmoedown and thing I really love and what helped me to get into it is all of these videos that they have beforehand. So even as a fan that didn't start with watching it, like I didn't know what Macuga or Dagnino were like as competitors before I watched this, but having those videos, it helped with the storyline, it helped with knowing what matches they'd won or lost or anything like that. So it was really, I still managed to get into the hype of it, and I think that's what makes Schmoedown so special, is having that element of being able to catch up anyone that isn't part of it. So as a new fan, you don't have to go back and start from season 1 or 2 and then work your way up. So I really did enjoy seeing the culmination. I can see where your mind was at in the matches. I was like, oh, so it's just Macuga. Okay, cool, fine, 3 Macuga matches. And then I started to see the storyline pattern. I was like, oh, okay, this is even cooler. So I really loved, actually, just from a storyline perspective, I love all of that kind of stuff. So being able to watch something that was very storyline driven and one after the other was so much fun.
Yeah, I think what makes the Schmoedown great, and I think Christian has a really good mind for long-term booking, which is kind of a wrestling term, but it's this idea of playing out a story over like a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And that definitely seems to be, it's an interesting comparison. Definitely seems like that this kind of was the grudge match, if you would, for this feud between Dagnino and Macuga. And yeah, this was great because it was very unexpected. You know, the Schmoedown can be very unexpected, much like a sneeze. You never know when one's going to pop out. But I do think that this was a really great way to sort of end their feud in a very unexpected way. Yeah, getting that Amy Adams question wrong. If he had gotten that, he would have won, and I think he knew it.
I was yelling at my TV. I was yelling at it.
So this was even though it was like 4 years ago, it's still like you still want him to get the answer, even though
it was new for me. So it was very much I was involved in it, and I do that. I get very involved in it. So I was screaming at my TV, and I was all, "Are you serious?"
Yeah.
Fine. If anyone heard me, they think I was watching sports, but it's pretty.
And going into this match, I think everybody thought Macuga was just going to steamroll over Finstock, and that was not the case at all. Dagnino actually controlled the match for like the majority of it and forced Macuga to hit all 3 of his questions. So very unexpected in that regard. And that's also what's great about the Schmoedown is that you have a match where it's like certain players heavily favored over the other, and then the other player ends up hanging in there or even winning, which there's some other matches that we might go back and watch. But like the prime example of that is Merle and Andrew Guy, right? So it's definitely, I think to piggyback on that comment, I think Christian's mind for storytelling is really, really good, and I hope that we get more of that, like sort of long-term booking and some of those longer story angles in season 9. I think that we absolutely will.
Yeah, when I first saw this match, I was kind of with you, Dagan, where I expected Josh to steamroll it. But when watching that match, I was kind of like you, Chess, where I'm like, "Come on, win, Josh, win!" And I remember posting a picture of myself fainting on the floor, saying "me" at the end of this match, and I think Josh liked that because it was just so incredibly tense the whole way through. I mean, you did really think that Josh was going to steamroll him, but round 1, they were both tied, 5-5. And round 2, usually round 2 is where Josh kind of comes back, but this is where he faltered and only managed to get 2 points. Dagnino really surprised all of us with getting 5 points in his round and stealing a point away from Josh. Josh in the betting round, Josh bet no points, and he knew the answer. And you could see that he was defeated right there. It's like he could have gotten more points if he just went with it. But obviously, Tom actually grew his lead by just having 1 point, which is nerve-wracking. And, of course, the speed round, that was like it was like all over the place. Like they would score 1, they would each score 1. Josh missed 2, and Dagnino missed 1. So it was like it was insanity, but I loved it. And the final round, if Josh hadn't gotten all 3, Tom would have won this match. And Tom just was kicking himself when he missed that Amy Adams question.
And it's great too.
Watching.
Go ahead, Jess.
It was fun watching these classic matches because the scores are so different to what they are today. Yeah. Like if you got that score in a current Schmoedown match, you would be like absolutely ostracized,
ridiculed.
You really got less than 20. You got less than 20. Like what is wrong with? It's funny, and it's watching it back when I could actually answer questions without actually having to put on any effort, unless it's something that I feel like I'm quite specialist in. It's really nice being able to play along and actually being able to stay almost toe-to-toe with the competitors is quite nice, actually, because watching a lot of current matches, especially Star Wars, I'm like, I have no clue if that's even in any of the movies. So I do like that aspect as well.
It's great. I think that, some of these questions definitely seem to be easier than a lot of what they are now. Some of them, though, I was surprised at how difficult they actually were for back then, for this far back in Schmoedown. Another interesting thing that I noted was that this was before the rule was instituted to get a free repeat of the question on a steal.
I wondered why they didn't do that. I was like, it seems weird. Why wouldn't you ask and get the question? Okay, that makes sense.
This was also the era where the JTE rule and the challenge rule was like brand new. So that's another interesting thing to look at. Is that because I remember, was it instituted at this point, or was it the season?
I believe so. I believe you're right, but this is also the era when the first question was worth 1 point. That was with Finstock and Josh Macuga. But after that match, the first question was worth 2 points. So this was kind of the era where a lot of things that we've seen in the Schmoedown now changed to the more current.
Yes. And in terms of the questions themselves, there were a few where it was like you would never see a question like this before, where it's like, name a Denis Villeneuve movie before Arrival. Or what was another one I wrote down? But like name a movie based on a Disney theme park ride, that's not Pirates of the Caribbean. You would never see a question like that anymore, because it's just like, name a movie.
At that point, absolutely screaming. I was like, Haunted Mansion, and then none of them got it. I was like, you kidding?
Or Tomorrowland, when it just come out,
and I still know.
And I think Tomorrowland had just come out like a year before or something, so they could figure that out. But it's great to see how the Schmoedown has sort of changed and evolved in terms of like the structure of the game itself, and like some of the questions and how they're answered and everything.
So here's the final analysis of our retro analysis. So this is a distribution graph for 2017 in a singles division, and what a distribution graph is, if you take all the scores at the end of the match, where does excuse me, Jess. You got that sneeze out of you.
Yeah, eventually.
So if you put all the scores, where does each individual score land on this distribution graph? And as you can see, if my mouse would move, Tom and Finstock are literally below average for this year in the singles division, whereas Josh is in the above average category. And Jeff Snieder is still in the above average category, but he's higher up. So obviously there are some matches that are worth somewhere between 20 and 23 points, and there are matches that are worth more than that. So this is kind of picking back on what you were talking about, Jess, about we're in a different era of what the point system used to be and what you could actually get. So there's a little bit more flexibility of, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to win the match. So there wasn't that much emphasis on being perfect. It was just like, let's just have fun. So it was it's pretty interesting to see.
You're gonna start selling your sneezes on eBay for $20,000 like that.
Look, if someone's going to pay for it, that's fine. I'm willing to do that.
So what do you guys think about it? Do you have any other things you want to add to this?
I think I covered it with my whole, the point system was so different, and it's slightly jarring to get back into it, but I think it's still really easy. But there was times where I was like, that score isn't correct. I'm like, oh no, it's worth 1 point. Don't worry, I wasn't paying attention. It's fine.
Yeah, it would be interesting to look at like a distribution graph between like compare this one with one from like 2019 or 2020, or even recently, even if it's just a random different match, but just how different those charts can kind of be with those new rules instituted, with the 2-pointer now being, instead of a 1-pointer, things like that. It's kind of fun to kind of go back and analyze and look at over the years how the game has, as we said, sort of changed and evolved.
Absolutely. And that's why we're going to be doing this retro analysis in the off season, so we can see how that will play out as the seasons progress. And obviously, we would actually have a perfect season of 2016 of how that 2-pointer would actually affect each of the. And obviously, we can talk about 2018, 2019, and more current matches. But that'll do it for our retro analysis of some of the more classic matches. But now we're going to go into what I like to call my sexy numbers segment, where we take a topic.
Sexy numbers! Sorry.
Can you sing the theme song for it now, Dagan?
Yeah, should we have a new theme song, and I'll just come in and go, sexy numbers!
I think that'd be copyrighted. So, but anyway. So what I like to do is I like to take a topic within the Schmoedown and I just analyze it. And since the award nominations have been released on Monday, I figure we talk about the nominations and who might actually win the Schmoedown Awards. Who has the best chance to win these awards? And yes, Dagan, it's lucky that you're here because you're nominated. Your channel's nominated on this as well.
Oh, I want to see the numbers on this. That's the most important thing for me now.
So first, we got a lot to cover.
Well, just quick disclaimer first. Double D does not have access to the award polls right now. He doesn't work for the Schmoedown and has the list in front of him with all the how many people have voted for which category.
Yes.
Unless I haven't been filled in on something here.
Yeah, see, well, okay, you are actually true. I was going to get to that. I was going to have that disclaimer. I don't have the actual numbers, like you said, Dagan, but Christian did put out a post to the Facebook group, and those numbers is what I'm going to be using. So those are not the official numbers, but we can at least gauge where the audience is voting. So we're going to take what the Facebook group says. But one category that didn't have that post was upset of the year, because I maybe Kristen forgot to post it, or maybe he didn't think of it. Whatever, I couldn't find it. So
that's a pickup too. Yeah,
we will talk about it, but we don't have any numbers based on that. Everything else is either taken from the Facebook group or based on actual numbers that I have recorded over the course of the year. So those are the those are the three separate categories, and as you can see right here. But first up, we're going to talk about the two awards, Faction of the Year and Manager of the Year. So if we look back at what happened last year, Corruption won both awards. Well, Shannon won Manager of the Year, but Corruption won both. That's because they won the points race with 71 points. They had the most number of matches, and they won the most. They have the better record of last season. But interestingly, even though Corruption won the points race, the Finstock Exchange has the most number of matches, and their record is by far better than any other faction. So let me go ask you, Dagan, do you think one faction is going to win these awards, or do you think it's going to be split up, and which one do you think will win it?
I think it's actually going to be closer than a lot of people think, because I think there's a lot of Finstock Exchange fans out there, and where I kind of base the awards is more like, who has walked out with the titles, who has the titles, who has the the most amount of defenses, things like that. So,
well, it was nice having you on the show, Dagan.
I'm banished, but I do think, like, looking at it from a strictly like who is most likely to win, I would favor Corruption, I think, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Finstock Exchange do pull this one off.
Just what do you think? Do you think Finstock is going to take it all, or do you think Corruption may take one of these awards?
Yeah, there's every chance Corruption could take it, but I still think that Finstock, looking at even just the polls and stuff like that, because I'm obviously a Finstock shell, so I was going to vote for them anyway. But seeing the polls and seeing that people actually have quite a lot of support for them, see, that's I was going to say.
Yeah, been hearing that a lot.
I think it's Shannon for Manager, and then it's going to be Finstock for Faction. I think they've got a lot of, like, especially when you put up the numbers like that. I've never actually looked at it, but like, geez, when you look at the numbers like that, it only kind of solidifies the fact that they kind of should be Faction of the Year. I get titles and stuff like that, but come on.
If they had won at least 1 or 2 titles over the course of the entire season, they probably would have won this thing.
With a landslide, yeah.
There's 2 curveballs here. Number one, Finstock Exchange was at number 1 going into Spectacular without any title matches. That says something. And number 2, most of these players are rookies. I mean, obviously we had JT, we had Roca, and we had Barbarian, but the rest are all rookies. So let's see what the Facebook group says. I mean, obviously the 2 biggest ones is Corruption and Finstock Exchange, but it seems that a lot more people are favoring for both Finstock Exchange to win both.
No, you're wrong about that, Dean. Sorry.
But interestingly enough, for Manager of the Year, Shannon's only down by 9 votes. So there's going to be a lot more. So it's going to be close between between Shannon and Bobby Gucci. So we could actually see both factions splitting these awards. And I think the one that's going to win Faction of the Year is the Finstock Exchange. But I'm not going to count that Corruption is going to take Manager of the Year. I think they have a real good shot.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right, so next up, we got Star Wars Player of the Year. Thomas Harper is undefeated. He's the current rookie champion in the Star Wars division. He's 6-0 with his record. Gold leader, he's been in 2 Star Wars tournaments, went to the finals in both. He's 5-2. Nikki Demolanta, I mean, she put out one hell of a run in the Star Wars tournament. She's 4-1, only losing to Thomas Harper.
Yeah.
Andrew Demolanta, he's 3-1, beat Alex Damon twice, beat Laura Kelly. The only person to beat him was Thomas Harper yet again. And Laura Kelly, she's 2-2. Honestly, as much as I think I want Andrew to win, I honestly think that Thomas Harper is going to win this award. Kiwi, what do you think? Who do you think is going to win?
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at the guy's accuracy, the fact of how many times he's gotten perfect. He's ridiculous. He's genuinely terrifying. It's amazing that Nikki managed to go toe-to-toe with him, and it just speaks to how good she is at what she does. Because I think he's been pretty unstoppable and pretty unshakable in it. And I think as much as, Demolanta did so well this year, unfortunately, I just think it was Thomas Harper's year, especially as a rookie, especially without having that behind him. I know that he's from Dragon Con and whatnot, but I still think that he deserves it looking at his record. Like there's no question for me.
What do you think, Dagan? Who do you got?
Yeah, gauging just some of the discussions and everything that have been had over the last week, I think that this is a pretty good edge for Harper in this, but it's also kind of fun to think of a what-if scenario where if Nikki had won at Spectacular, this would have been a really, really tough debate between, I think, all 3, because you would have had Demolanta at 3-1, you would have had Nikki at 5-0, and then you would have had Thomas Harper at 5-1. So that would have been a really difficult sort of debate. But I think just given that Harper did walk out of Spectacular with the victory, I think that most people are going to be voting for him. But I do get that sort of opinion as well, where that argument of, well, Andrew did the seemingly impossible by beating Alex Damon twice, and then he also defended against Laura Kelly. So pretty good, year for him as well. But I think ultimately what it comes down to for a lot of people, again, is the fact that he did ultimately lose to Thomas Harper, and then Thomas Harper has gone on this run, and just, it's more of a numbers and belts thing over like a voting with your heart type of deal for most people. But I do get that argument for Andrew Demolanta as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's see what the Facebook group says. So nearly 52% of the vote is going to Thomas Harper. 25% is going to Andrew Demolanta. Had Nikki would have won, obviously hers would have been bigger, but she's getting 17 of the vote, at least on the Facebook group. It could differ from the actual awards. Gold leader, even though he went to the finals in both tournaments, he only gets 5% of that Facebook group vote, and 1% is going to Laura Kelly. I mean, that hurts. I mean, I love Laura Kelly, but it seems only 1% of the vote out of the votes is going to Laura Kelly. That hurts a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that comment from Adelia there as well. This feels like it's been the most competitive and most interesting Star Wars season that we had. Because I think for a while there it was just Alex Damon again, Alex Damon yet again, And this year has just been very exciting with all the different new competitors coming in and everything, and the belt changing hands multiple times. I think it's been a great year for Star Wars.
And on that note, let's move to the Inner Geekdom Player of the Year. First up, we have the current champion Mike Kalinowski. He's 5-0 this season, undefeated. Robert Parker, he's at 5-2 with 1 knockout. Anru Moses is 3-1. Mara's 1-1. And I know Chandru is the nominee, but I still say Saul should have been the nominee because of his record. But Chandru's at 1-2.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. How is 1 and 2 put you into the rankings versus 4 and 2? Can someone explain this to me?
I think it's because he played in 2 different title matches. He started out the season with the title, and then his next couple matches were either in a number 1 contender or for a title. So, but I get, like, if you're looking at numbers, it probably should be Saul.
The common thread here is that all of these nominations have been in title matches. Saul hasn't been,
right?
Mark Haas hasn't, Alex hasn't, Ethan, and these are the top 10, by the way. Ethan hasn't, and Jesse hasn't. So out of the 5 nominees, these are
that explains it. I was very confused when that came out.
Yeah, so that's when I figured out, like, oh, it's because the title matches are probably worth more.
I don't like. I get the argument for titles and whatnot, but see, like, I do think that Saul got snubbed because at the end of the day, he still played more matches and won more matches, and yet he doesn't even get a nomination.
Yeah. And so, I honestly think that even if Saul was nominated, it's going to be hard to swing my vote for Mike Kalinowski.
But sometimes it's just nice to be nominated for the work that you do. But
I think ultimately, though, this should be Mike in a landslide. I don't think anybody is. There might be some people that have a vote for somebody else, but this definitely is Mike. But I think definitely should have Saul been nominated.
Yeah. What do you think, Jess? Who do you think is going to win this award?
Mike. Like, let's be honest. I don't like. I'd be really surprised. As much as it'd be great to see Parker win, I would be it'd be the most shocking thing. I think the most shocking win if it did go to Parker or anyone else for that matter. It has to be Mike.
All right, so the Facebook group, like 70.
What a surprise!
It's clearly going to go to Mike. I mean, obviously this is not official numbers, but the face group does seem to vote for Mike, and I think Mike is going to win this award. I don't think there's any chance that he's going to lose. Robert Parker would have been nice, but I just can't see. He's undefeated. He defended 3 times this season.
Right.
I think. Yeah,
it's insanity. Come on.
I haven't heard anybody publicly say that they're not voting for Mike Kalinowski in this category. So what all those other, pie numbers are, those people are just liars, I think, or something.
Well, good thing is we don't know those, so we can't offend them publicly.
Right.
Let's move on to the teams of the year. So top 5, the top nomination, the 5 nominations are Shazam. They're undefeated with 5-0 with 1 knockout. We got Danger Zone at 4-3. King Arthur 3-1. Lightning Time is 4-2, and Corruption is 1-1. And kind of like what happened with IG, all of these teams have been in title matches. Everyone else has not. So that's why these numbers are the way they are and why they're nominated the way they are. Personally, for me, I think Shazam is going to win this overwhelmingly.
Once again, very surprised if it was anyone else. Very surprised. As much as I love King Arthur, and people out there know how much I love King Arthur, and like Danger Zone is great as well. If Shazam didn't win it, I would have a lot of questions. Yeah, similarly with Mike, I haven't heard anybody publicly say that they're not voting for Shazam in this category. So, yeah, I think this, again, should be Shazam winning in a landslide.
Well, pretty much here we're all in agreement because 72% of the vote on the Facebook group is Shazam. So like Mike, I think Shazam is going to wholeheartedly win this. It's not going to be any surprise. But King Arthur does get 11% of the Facebook group, so they come in second place. So that's pretty good. And so I
love me some King Arthur. So
yeah,
that's great to see.
Yeah,
they're in second place at least.
Yeah,
but I have no objections to this. So let's move on to singles player of the year. We got the 5 nominations. We got Dan Murrell at 5-2. We have Griffey Nooms at 7-1 with 1 knockout. Marisol McKee, she's undefeated this year at 7-0.
Yeah.
Ethan Irwin, 3-1. And Janine the Machine, who has played a phenomenal season, can't understand that, as 4-2. Listen, this is going to be really tough, but I got to go Marisol. She's undefeated. She's defended that champion belt 2 times. My vote's going to Marisol wholeheartedly. Dagan, what do you think? What do you got?
Yeah, I think it's painful for Jess a little bit. Hurts her soul maybe. But I think this may not be as clear as like much of a landslide as Mike or Shazam, but I think that there's a clear favorite here, and that's Marisol McKee. I think just not having a loss, having the title, doing what she did from a historical perspective, all of that amazing accomplishment. So it's absolutely Marisol McKee for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to agree. As much as I'd love to sit here and try and campaign for Griffey, I know very well that it should be I wanted Griffin to win as well. But she is incredible and she absolutely deserves it. Like, Griffey is great and I'm always going to have his back in this competition, but it speaks for itself. I can't put him above her because at the end of the day I have to be fair in my reasoning, and I can't reason my way into giving him that award, unfortunately.
Well, so let's see what the Facebook group says. Marisol.
Wow, what a surprise.
But once again, Griffey Newman is in second place with 15% of the vote. So, I mean, listen, I think Marisol is going to win this wholeheartedly, like the other division nominations. But it's nice to see that Griffey Newman is actually getting that second slice of the pie.
As he should, though, when you look at the rest of the people on this list, and no offense to them, but he's the only one that comes anywhere close. So to see him in that second position, it only makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you could maybe argue Dan because it's Dan, but like,
that's because it's Dan, as opposed to it being because he deserved it this season, and that's the problem that I have sometimes.
Yeah, I would have Griffin Newman as the obvious runner-up here in this category.
All right. So let's move on to comeback player of the year. So we got 2 tables here. One is the individual record. The other one is if they were on a team, that would be their team's record. So Janine, she's 4-2 in her singles. Her previous record was 1-2 with 1 knockout. In teams, she's 0-2 with the previous record of 0-1. But I will say that other teams match with Shazam, that was a really close match, and she fought like hell. In fact, if it wasn't for her, that round 2 would have been disastrous for Jeff and Draco. If Janine hadn't been there, she took that round 2. So I feel like the only reason why that's a 0-2 and not a 1-1 is because Shazam played perfect. JT this year in singles, he's been 3-1, whereas previous record was 1-1, and his team's record is kind of a wash because it's 2-2, and his previous record was 1-1. Andrew, his current record is 3-1. Previous record is 2-1. Mara Kanopik, obviously this was taken. Her previous record was taken from the last time she played in IG. Her previous record was 5-1, and her current is 1-1. She's only played in 2 matches, unfortunately. And David Del Rio, he's 3-1, where his previous record was 0-1. I gotta say, I mean, I may be a little biased, but I think Janine has got this. What do you think, Dagan?
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's Janine. The arguments for some of the other players, I think, are valid and everything. Mara not being in a match for over 2 years and then coming back and winning the title. That was pretty big. JTE, maybe not having the best season prior to this year, then coming back and getting it. Del Rio, some good arguments could be made as well, but I think that the game tape wise, there maybe wasn't as much with Del Rio to warrant him a comeback player of the year. But with Janine, after everything that she went through, after being touted as like, this one of the, she's going to come in and tear through the league as a rookie, and then dramatically, I think, declining in her gameplay and everything, and then coming back to the way that she has this season, and the match with Marisol, and just beating Dan Murrell. I mean, that's the big one for me. The fact that she was able to beat Dan Murrell, I think, it gives her the edge here. And it's just amazing. I'm so happy. I could not be more happier that Janine is probably going to be getting this year, because she's just incredible and somebody that I always wish nothing but the best for in the Schmoedown. She's got that charm to her, and just everybody wants to root for her. So I'm hoping that that continues into next season, that sort of momentum, and that she can. Yes, ASG is the real thing. I hope that to see her do as well and better this year, because I think that she's somebody, much like we were looking at Marisol last season, of like, oh, this is the player to watch going into 2021. I think for me, that's Janine. I think that there's a very strong possibility that Janine wins the belt this year.
Yeah, well, let's see what the Facebook group. Janine has 46% of the vote. JT has 24%. So while it's obviously it's almost half of what Janine's put in, she still has the vast majority of the vote in the Facebook group. So honestly, I do think that Janine will take this, but it's probably going to be a little close. It's not going to be, obviously, it's not going to be as close as maybe the manager of the year and faction of the year.
Quality play.
It's going to be close, where it's going to be like maybe 10 votes shy. But I do think that Janine is ultimately going to win. Let's go to player of the year. So we have Marisol McKee, two-time defending singles champion, first woman in the singles champion. There's obviously a lot more titles, but obviously I can't fit all of that on the screen. There's just too many. But the historical precedents, I think that all those accomplishments. Griffey Newman's singles and tournament winner in his rookie season. I mean, he won the most matches in teams and singles combined, no more than everyone else. So that's also an accomplishment. Mike Kalinowski, three-time defending Inner Geekdom champion and three-time Inner Geekdom belt holder. He's won that. He's defended that belt 3 times this season, and this season is his 3rd time holding that belt. Ethan Irwin, 2-time singles champion. He lost to Marisol, but he's the second singles. He's won that singles belt twice now. And Thomas Harper, undefeated Star Wars rookie champion. This is probably so far the most difficult award that I had to choose between, but I feel that Marisol deserves this more because of the historical precedent, the fact that she did had incredible matches all the way through this season. Kiwi, well, who are you voting for on this?
Is it really a question? It's like I'm sorry, but Griffey went to the finals in 2 tournaments in his rookie season. It is so damn impressive, and the only reason why everyone keeps discounting him is because of this damn title thing that everyone seems. It's one match. What everyone needs to remember is it's one match to win a title. That does not speak to a performance that's carried over an entire season. And I think that losing one match shouldn't discount him. And the same fact that we don't always discount people for losing a single match because everyone goes, oh, well, they lost to blah, blah, blah. So it means that it's not so bad. I'm sorry, but he still did something wholeheartedly impressive that no one else has really done before. And I'm going to have to go with Griffey. As much as I love Marisol and what she did in the historical, side of things, and the fact that she's a woman and whatnot, still Griffey did something incredible in his first ever season.
Yeah, this is really tough for me. I've already made my vote and everything, but I think I want to save some of the more debate discussions for the show that we're doing on Sunday. Me and Jess and Corey over on LGR Network at Twitch are going to be doing some more of this award conversation. But I think for overall player of the year, it's really tough. But I think that great, because winning 2 tournaments would usually get it, but he also didn't win any titles, and I think between that and between Marisol and Mike, those are your top 3 here, and I think it's going to be really, really close in terms of the polls and everything. But it's really tough. Again, I think I want to save more of the discussion, but just for me, in terms of number of defenses and titles, is what I'm kind of using as the tiebreaker here. If I were to pick between Griffey, Marisol, and Mike has one more title defense than Marisol, so I am leaning towards Mike. But I do think in terms of people voting, this is going to be really, really close. And I'm interested to see what the chart says here, Dan.
Yeah, Mike would be my second, funnily enough. Not Marisol. Yeah. Mike would be my second.
Marisol has the lead with 40%, but Griffey Newman has 32% of the Facebook group. This is going to be very close between Griffey and Marisol because, obviously there are much more votes. So Patreon voters have more saying power. So Griffey Newman could actually win this award. Even though Marisol has the Facebook group on her side, this might actually go to Griffey Newman, surprisingly. So hopefully you're happy.
Again, winning 2 tournaments usually gets you player of the year. So that's, a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, and Mike only has 17% of the vote. So it's going to come down to either Marisol or Griffey Newman. But honestly, I won't be surprised if Griffey Newman takes this award. So let's move on to the next award, to Rookie of the Year. So we have Griffey Newman, whose individual record is 3-1, and his team's record is 7-1 with 1 knockout. That's a combined score of 10-2. Thomas Harper, he's undefeated at 6-0 in the Star Wars division. Nikki Demolanta is 4-1 in the Star Wars division. Amaru Moses, he's 3-1 in the Geekdom division, and Josh Horowitz in the singles division, he's 3-2, and teams, he's 3-1. This is going to be tough. It's either going to come down to 2 between Griffey and Thomas.
Yeah.
I think it's going to. I voted for Griffey Newman because obviously the numbers don't lie. It's 10-1. You gotta get, even though Thomas Harper is the champion, and that it's usually that would get you the award, but but Griffey Newman has accomplished so much more. 2 divisions is very tough, and he competed for both belts at Spectacular. That is not easy. I feel like the only reason why he didn't win either one is because he was competing in both. So I feel like this award should go to Griffey Newman. What do you think, Dagan?
I'm leaning more towards Thomas Harper on this. Again, I'm looking at, Ryan says it here, belts matter. I'm looking at the undefeated record and the title as the tiebreaker here if I were to compare the 2. But, not to discount what Griffey did as a rookie with only 1 loss in each singles and teams divisions. And then I think when it comes to the voters, I do think it's going to be really, really close, again, between Griffin Newman and Thomas Harper.
What do you think, Jess?
I'm split. I'll be really honest. I'm split because I cannot discount what Harper did. It's once again the same reasons I gave for why he deserves Star Wars Player of the Year. Like it's and then the thing is Griffey did two divisions and he didn't lose until he got to Spectacular. And that's still damn impressive. I don't know. I struggled with this, and I went with Griffey just because I'm a shill.
All right, so let's see what the Facebook group says. Griffey Newman actually has the popular vote.
Wow, that's the closest one. That's the closest one I've seen yet.
Well, actually, they're pretty close. The main difference is 4%. So between the last one and this one. So Thomas Harper has 37%. Yeah, 37%. So it could go either way. Same here between either Marisol and Griffey. This could go either between Griffey and Thomas. This is really, really close. But like I said, I feel like Griffey Newman's going to win, but I'm not going to be surprised if Thomas Harper wins because might as well be 50-50 at this point.
I think both of those last two awards that we just talked about, voting is going until like midnight on Sunday here in the East Coast. So it's one of those that like one final little push of votes could trickle in at the end and give the edge to one or the other. I think it's going to be really, really close.
Yeah. So this is going to be a very interesting award to see who's going to win. Let's move on to match of the year. This is only for Facebook group, the Facebook group votes. There's no data that can say this was more match of the year than others. So these next few categories are just simply from the Facebook groups. We got Damon versus Demolanta, the 5150 match. We got Shazam versus Corruption. Mike Kalinowski versus Robert Parker. Mike versus Chandru, Janine versus Marisol, Thomas Harper versus Nikki Demolanta, Paul Thomas Harzer versus Mike Kalinowski, Adam Collins versus Dan Merle 2, Deception versus Blackjack, Shazam versus the Otter Couple. Honestly, there's probably like 5 matches that I would narrow it down to as the winner of this award. It's probably going to be Damon versus Demolanta, Mike versus Shazam, Shazam versus Otter Couple, Mike versus Chandru, and probably it's a toss-up between either Marisol versus Janine and Thomas Harper versus Nikki Demolanta. So I probably would choose just Harper versus Nikki because honestly I'm a Star Wars fan, so that's probably going to be the tiebreaker. But Dagan, which one of these 5 would you narrow it down to winning this award?
Yeah, for me, it's what everybody's saying here in the chat. It's the first Damon versus Demolanta match, 5150. We keep coming back.
It's on shirts. It's on shirts. It says 5150, and everyone knows what that means. Like Soda said, and our producer said in the private chat, you know what that means when someone says 5150. I'm a new Schmoedown fan, and I know how much people go on and on about 5150. And like the fact that it's a phenomenon of its own speaks for itself.
And the fact that it was so early on in the season, and yet it's the match that everybody keeps going back to when we talk about match of the year. A lot of people blame some of these awards on recency bias and everything all the time, but I think with this one, it's going to kind of rule against that theory a little bit because we're never going to see anything like that again in the history of the Schmoedown. That level of perfection throughout that far into the match. Where they just didn't get anything wrong up until that last question. And it was just such a classic Schmoedown match. The fact that we did have that challenge where Ferris was talking about it on our show last night a little bit, how it was just such essential Schmoedown, like the way that that challenge, that one of these guys lost, but then didn't lose, really.
Yeah.
Like Damon had the match, and then there was the challenge that came in. I mean, there's nothing that says Schmoedown more than this kind of match. And if I were to show somebody, that maybe is a little bit more geeky, a Schmoedown match for the first time, somebody that likes Star Wars probably helps too. This would be the match that I would probably introduce them to in terms of Schmoedown.
Yeah, I mean, Double D, do you have the figures on whether that could be achieved again?
Okay, in the Star Wars division, I don't think it's possible because it's just so high up. There's like you have to get 16 points just to beat it in sudden death, and that's if you had to run if Nikki would have gotten the bonus question in round 1 at Spectacular. Thomas Harper and Nikki would have had the highest tie score possible in that format. They would have to score 16 points in sudden death just to beat that score.
Oh yeah.
Again, that's a very tall order against the Star Wars division. That could actually be possible because they know so much about Star Wars, but I don't know if it's going to happen again. But
no.
But for the Facebook group, nearly 47% of people have voted.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, well, it had everything. It wasn't just a match that went on. You had the challenge, and then like. Was it Ryan that was saying it? It had everything. It had the real on the edge of your seat feeling to it. And I can't imagine how you guys would have felt watching it live, because even watching it after the fact and knowing how it ends, it's still so nail biting for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go, Ryan said.
Yeah, I think this is going to win it, but we'll have to wait and see. Again, these are not official votes, but it at least gauges what the people are saying. And I think this is going to take it. In fact, our chat is saying 51-50 is just going on and on. So I do believe that this is going to win. And we're going to have to kind of speed this up.
One of the greatest matches in Schmoedown history.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So moving on to podcast of the year, we got the Schmoedown Rundown, Beyond the Schmoedown with Nikki and Andrew. We got Schmoedown Backstage, Machine Mondays, and A Certain Point of View. Honestly, these are all great podcasts, really great people behind it. But obviously, as a numbers guy, I got to vote for my fellow Crusader, Frank Janish. I got to go with the Rundown. He's been starting this. He pretty much brings great insight to it, and I'm obviously building my show based on that. So I have to vote for the Schmoedown because I am biased like that. But what do you think, Kiwi? Who do you think is going to win this award?
I don't know who because I haven't been in this space for long enough, but I voted for Beyond the Schmoedown because I think the two of them are just such excellent human beings, just phenomenal players as well as people, and I just think they deserve it.
Yeah, they have a great show. I'm not going to discount what Ben Bateman did with Backstage this year. I think he did a really, really good job with that show. Janine is amazing, as always. So her show, worthy of a nomination for sure. I echo all the things you said about the Rundown, Double D. But I think that POV might have the edge here. I'm just looking at like the fan reaction and who people are leaning towards voting. I wouldn't be surprised if it's between POV and Rundown ultimately in terms of who the fans are voting for.
Well, you might be a little surprised because the Schmoedown Rundown takes the big advantage. At some point, you get is kind of tied with second place with Beyond the Schmoedown, but the Rundown seems to get the early lead, so they could actually take this award. At least what the Facebook group is saying. But obviously, this is not official vote, but we'll have to wait and see for Podcast of the Year. Now, you might be confusing this with Schmoedown and Media Award because we got Let's Get Ready.
Never heard of them. Never heard of them.
I hear they're always in controversies. Don't trust them.
We got Ultimate Schmoedown Show. We got Certain Point of View. And we got Schmo Me the Money. Obviously, we didn't qualify because this is our very first episode.
Yeah, that's the only reason why.
Which one are you going to vote for? Are you going to be biased or are you going to be objective?
So are you going to vote for your show or are you going to vote for the one that's going to win, Dagan, is the question here.
No comment, but I will say that in terms of predicting who I think people will vote for, I mean, it would be an honor to lose to POV, so I think that's probably where it's going to go. But you know, I'm seeing some support from a lot of folks here, so I would love an upset victory for Let's Get Ready Network here. Not biased at all or anything.
Yep. Yeah. No, I voted for you guys. I'm not even gonna to pretend I didn't. I think you guys make such great content and you're such wonderful people. So it was a little bit of a head and heart decision. So
yeah. Well, I did want to shout out a couple shows that didn't get nominated that I think deserve some love. Galaxy Geeks, we saw some love for them in the channel, or in the chat. And I think Euroschmo is another show that people should really go and checking out. Those guys are great over there. So,
well, Dagan, I voted for you because you are such a great person and you do put good content, and also because you're on my very first show. So I voted for you just to give a little bit.
Yay!
And because I'm technically a Canadian now. So
yes, exactly.
So, but the Facebook group, the Facebook group seems to lean towards Certain Point of View for this overwhelmingly.
Jeez, that is insane. They can't be in two categories. Can someone explain to me how they qualify in two categories?
I can't.
Ask Christian, I believe, because
I'm not going to start controversy, but I just don't think it's right there in both.
I think with again, I'm not 100% sure, but Christian did say that because Molly Damon is on the show, she kind of is in both. That's how
she's in their banner. She has her own animated version of herself.
Yeah, but I'm just reporting I'm just the messenger. So, but you would have to.
I'm gonna stop before I say too much. But yes.
All right. So next up, we got Moment of the Year. Up first, we got Kevin Smets returning. We got Marisol McKee winning her first title match in the singles division. Alex Damon versus Demolanta, 51-50. Mara wins her IG belt against Chandru, and Wild Berries reunite. I mean, listen, I think Marisol did a great job at that match. But honestly, I was really emotional when Kevin Smets returned. I mean, I know he returned, but man, when his speech, I was in tears. So that's honestly who I voted for, because I was just crying at what he said at Spectacular. But Kiwi, who did you vote for in this?
Marisol taking her first title match. I totally understand where the community is coming from with the Smets return, but as someone who's so new to the Schmoedown, I don't have that emotional attachment to it, and I understand. I know that he went through a cancer battle and everything like that, and I'm totally understanding of that. And I've got my own people that I've lost to it, and I get that aspect to it. But for me, Marisol is something that I actually experienced, as opposed to seeing someone come back that I know is of significance. But yeah, for me, it was Marisol. Delia, I don't know why.
Yeah, the Wild Berries reunion. Not sure why this is over.
Watch out for Dean in the chat.
Over Roka's retirement speech. Come on.
Yeah, right. That was a great speech. I don't even I don't have a lot of emotional weight behind that guy, but even that got me a bit choked up.
Yeah, look, I love the Smets return. What an amazing thing that he's been able to battle back from cancer and get back, in the ring and everything. Incredible promo there from him. And so I wouldn't be mad at all if that wins. But for me personally, I did vote for Marisol. I think that from a historical significance perspective, I think that she deserves it, what she's able to do, making history and everything. And just the emotion in that moment as well. Both of these moments are very emotional for people, but I think ultimately this is a personal choice. It's like, what do you prefer?
Oh, Dean,
God damn it, Dean. Yeah, Dean is the 1% you'll see.
Dean's the one person waving the flag for them.
But I do think that this is one of those categories where it's more about which moment meant the most to you. And for sure,
and there's very good. It looks like it's a split between two, and there's great arguments for both.
Yeah.
So looking at the chart, I feel like it's going to be close between those two moments.
It's going to be. Kevin Smets returning gets the early lead, but Marisol does have a good chunk. So we could it could be either or. And this is how I'm seeing it. It could be either or. But Kevin Smets returning does have the early lead in the Facebook group. But let's move on to what's the next one? Rivalry of the year. We got Murrow versus Roka. We got Mike versus Chandru. We got both Demolantes versus Alex Damon. We got Paige versus Ben Bateman, and Gold Leader versus Harper. Honestly, out of these 5, only 2 really jump out at me. It's Mike versus Chandru and Gold Leader versus Harper. I think those were the 2 biggest ones. I think I voted for the one that really popped consistently. It was Gold Leader versus Harper. That was
That's so good. Their promos and their back and forth, and even in after shows where one would pop up in the after shows and then just talk smack about each other. It was so entertaining to watch. I loved it. I really just and nothing against Nikki, but it would have been amazing to go back and watch that. It was amazing to it would have been amazing to see the 2 of them at Spectacular. The amount of work into promos and stuff that would have gone on if they both gone to Spectacular would have been incredible. And that's what I want to see. That's one of the matches I really want to see is Gold Leader versus Harper next year. Well, this year now.
I think we're going to get Gold Leader versus Andrew Demolanta in a number 1 contender match, and the winner that'll play Harper. That's where I think we're headed. But I will say that I would tweak it a little bit, and I would say that it's not Mike versus Chandru, but it's everybody versus Chandru. So in that regard,
Chandru versus everybody.
I had to lean towards Chandru just because no feud this year felt more raw and real to me than that whole Chandru controversy, and just the way that it was built up and everything, and they actually played into it during the match. And what other time can you think of that turned Mike babyface for one night? So the amount of heat that Chandru gets, he's the greatest heel that we have right now in the Schmoedown, and I think in that regard, I voted and leaned towards Chandru versus Mike. but I'm interested to see the chart and to see how close it is between that feud and the Gold Leader and Harper feud, because I think people make some good points about that one as well.
Yes, so the early lead does have Mike versus Chandru, but Gold Leader and versus Harper does have a bit catching up to do, but it's close. So, but I think that Mike and Chan versus Chandru is going to take this. It's a very sizable lead. So I think this is the one.
I mean, he had to do something to stay relevant in the Schmoedown. Chandru did for a while there.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next category, Babyface of the Year. We got Nikki Delmalanta, we got Brendan Meyer, we got Janine the Machine, William Bibiani, and we got Beth May. Honestly, I love all of these competitors, but the one that really jumps out is Nikki Delmalanta. I feel like that's the one that out of the list, this is the one people are going to be voting for. What do you think?
And she also played so well as well. It's not even that she was just, a baby face in the league. She did so well in Star Wars. So for me, it's Nikki, 100%.
Yeah, look. Sorry, I just had a brain fart. It'll happen. Oh yeah, so nobody was talking about Nikki Delmalanta going into this season. Like, she was drafted on Twitter, in the last rounds, and she has become one of the most beloved people that we have in this community.
For good reason. For
absolutely good reason. I mean, look what she was able to do. She beat Alex Damon. Talking about upset of the year, that was in there. Winning the Star Wars tournament, going toe-to-toe with Thomas Harper, who's been nothing but perfect this season, and able to hang in there with him, and only one word away from that match possibly going into sudden death.
Yep.
With that one miss that was challenged, but I think for me this was an easy call for Nikki Delmalanta, but I mean there's some other great options on there as well. Janine, also very beloved, somebody that everybody can get behind. Bibbs is another great shot.
Yes.
Brandon the Kid Meyer, I think, has won it by default the last 2 years in a row, just because he's so likable. But for me, the one that has the edge is Nikki Delmalanta.
Yeah, I mean, this is no contest. Nikki is just dominating the whole votes in the Facebook group. So I think this is like a slam dunk for Nikki to actually win this award. It's no contest.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a comeback.
Yeah. But next up, let's go with heel of the year. We got.
I wonder who's going to win this.
Okay.
Rick Radis, Mike Kalinowski, Gold Leader, and Bobby Gucci. I mean, I think to speak out to me, it's Gold Leader or Chandru. I think Chandru's going to win. I think people hate him so much that they're going to give him the vote.
He's done the work, and he really knows how to sell that character. He deserves it. I'm sorry, Gold Leader. He's part of our channel, and I think he's amazing. But if you put the two of them in a room, who's going to dominate the other person? It's going to be Chandru dominating Gold Leader. Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
This was one when I was doing the voted. I could not click on Chandru's name fast enough. I actually clicked on it so fast that I mistakenly voted for somebody else for the next award, and I had to go back. This is so easly Chandru for me. Another one that should win in the list.
Yeah, kind of like Nikki. It's overwhelmingly Chandru. I mean, there's some votes for all the others, but no one comes close. So this is like Nikki. This is going to be a slam dunk for Chandru for a heel of the year. But let's move on.
You're supposed to hate his character. That's the point,
Supposed to.
We get to the last category, upset of the year. We got Janine beating Dan, Paige beating Ben Bateman, Alex Delmalanta beating Alex, Nikki Delmalanta beating Alex, and Press Room beating.
So bad that there's two matches against Alex Damon for upset of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, listen, I think 3 of these matches are stand out to me.
Yeah.
Well, 4. But
yes,
I think the one that has the most is going to, for my vote, was Alex Damon beating Damon because of the historical significance.
Alex Damon beating Damon?
Alex Damon beating Andrew Delmalanta beating Alex Damon. There's so many AD names in there.
Yeah, it's AD. It's just going to get you. I get it.
Yeah. So I feel like Andrew beating Alex is the one that's got my vote because Alex had that belt for 980 days. Almost 3 years. 4 months from being 3 years.
What?
Total. Obviously, it's a 3-year run, but it's 4 months from being a full 3 years.
Wow.
I honestly think and it was a 51-50 match. Everyone is talking about it, even to this day. I feel like that had my vote. Even though Nikki beating Alex, that's definitely an upset, but basic on how he was playing against Molly, I started thinking that Nikki could actually beat Alex at that point. Janine was playing big even at the Otter couple versus Shazam match. And while it's still an upset, there was clear evidence to say that Janine could beat Dan. Paige beating Ben, obviously it could go either way for me. Press room versus danger zone, yeah, there was a bit of that was an upset, but it's not as much of an upset versus between Alex Damon and Andrew DeMolanta. So that's what got my vote.
Yeah, I mean, I get that argument. I will say that the only reason I didn't vote for DeMolanta beating Damon is because of how well DeMolanta played last year. It was almost like, either of these, even though it's Alex Damon, going into that match, I really felt like either of them could win. So for that reason, it wasn't so much an upset. I mean, you have to look at this as like an upset, right? And I think Danger Zone was many people's shoe-in to make the final of that tournament. I don't know what just happened. I disappeared off the screen. There we are.
There we are.
But yeah, I think in terms of a strictly upset point of view here, I've actually voted for Press Room beating Danger Zone because of the fact that it was Ben and Dan and everybody kind of had them as a shoe-in. And, Perry had shown that she could potentially beat Ben Bateman earlier in singles, but to go up against Merle as well, I think was like, and Horowitz coming off of that tough loss in New York, KO loss, I think the fact that they were able to beat Danger Zone in the manner that they did as well, for me, gives that the upset of the year. But this is another one that I think will end up being really close in the voting. I think there's few different options you could go with here.
What do you think, Jess? Who do you got on this?
I was so torn because there were so many good upsets. I went with Paige beating Bateman purely based on the promos and the back and forth and the fact that it continued for quite a while. I just liked it from a storyline perspective as opposed to, just coming in with the energy. It was the only reason why I picked Paige versus Bateman was just because of the emotional investment I had in it, because I will admit I was a bit of a Bateman shill, and watching someone go toe-to-toe with him and then beat him was kind of fun to watch.
Well, there's no numbers on this because this is the one post that didn't get on the Facebook group, at least the one that I couldn't find. So with that, we'll conclude with our sexy numbers. But hopefully we'll see what happens when the awards gets released. But we'll see who's right at that. But thank you so much for joining me on this premiere episode of Schmoedown Analytics. Just where can everybody find you?
You can find me on my Twitter at Kiwi_Jess_. You'll also find me later on tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific talking kind of Star Wars with Taco. We're doing the names in debate. I think it should be So You Think You Can Star Wars. He says that it's the wrong choice. It's Do They Star Wars? Where we take characters from other popular franchises and we debate whether or not they'd fit in Star Wars. So that'll be tonight, and then tomorrow I've got 2 shows. I've got a show with this guy where we're going to do more debate on the awards, and then later that evening I'm going to be hanging out with Ben and we're going to be talking movies. So that's what I've got going on.
Danny, I'm with other after shows at this point. Sorry, I have to admit. Yeah, my family. Think of my family.
Think of the children.
I will never have children. Well, they can find me never having children. They can find me shooting with everybody on the internet. No, but for real, we are doing a show tonight. Myself and Northern Entertainment Group's own Soda will be talking the crazy week in professional wrestling We'll be doing that over at LGR Network's Twitch. So that's twitch.tv/LGR Network over there on the Let's Get Ready Network. And that will be coming up here in about an hour and 20 minutes or so. We'll be doing that show. And then tomorrow, as Jess mentioned, we'll be doing part 2 of our awards talk over on Any Given Schmo Day, which is also on twitch.tv/LGR Network. Thank you, Dean. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dean.
Thanks for the weird comments earlier. I guess. Sure. Let's leave it at that.
And you can find me here every week doing Schmoedown Analytics with Jess over there. And you can find me at Dan Dolinsky on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining me on this Saturday. And I would like to thank Soda for producing behind the scenes and helping us out. But until next time, stay Schmoedown, everybody.
You know what's cooler than magic?